Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new, welcome. My name is Hannah, and in today's video we are doing a coffee table styling video, tips and tricks and how you can style yours like a pro. So if this is something you are interested in watching, just keep on watching. All right, I cannot believe I have not brought in this type of video to you guys. I have done tips and tricks on open shelf styling, but I have yet to bring a video to my channel on tips and tricks on styling a coffee table. I feel this is an area that a lot of people struggle in. They really don't know how to style a coffee table. I see a lot of mistakes through Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok that I come across on just minor things that people aren't doing properly when it comes to styling your coffee table like a pro. So in today's video, it's gonna be super short, super simple. I'm gonna break it down into points, ways that you guys can style your coffee tables, feel confident in your styling, and hopefully you guys can save this video for future, something that you can come back to refer to when you are styling your coffee table in the future. But like I said, I'm gonna break it up into points. I'm gonna give you guys plenty of B-rolls of examples on things to avoid and how we can change it and make it feel a lot better and a lot more intentional. So without further ado, let's get. All right, common mistake number one is spacing when it comes to placing your decor on your coffee table. Some things that I see frequently when it comes to decor on coffee tables is just the spacing being so outrageously far apart. I've seen people where they've almost placed 4 different decor items on all 4 corners of their coffee table and then leaving the middle of it super bare. Now, what happens with this is it feels very unintentional. It almost feels like someone just placed decor on 4 points of their coffee table versus it being more connected, having the items closer together and feeling like it was something that was actually planned, something intentional. So when it comes to styling your coffee table, you need to place your items closer together. Now, if you are just getting started in your coffee table styling or just decorating in general, a really easy thing to do, which I actually saw this tip from another creator on TikTok, she used blue painter's tape to tape out a grid. So that way you will place the different decor elements within each of those sections or grid pattern to allow yourself to feel that you can see visually where things are supposed to be placed, because I definitely feel like spacing is a really big problem that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to decorating. So think, the closer your items are together, obviously we want a little bit of space, but the closer they are together, it's definitely going to feel more intentional. It's going to feel like you actually planned it. It wasn't just decor that was dropped on your coffee table. So definitely pay attention to your spacing when it comes to decorating your table. And like I said, use that tape grid. Use the grid to help you when it comes to spacing and kind of collecting your different items together on your coffee. When it comes to styling our first items, I always start with coffee table books. Think of coffee table books as like the building blocks to your style. Once you have your books placed where you want them, then it's a matter of just trickling in different elements around them and on top of them. So they're kind of like your starting point. At least for me, that's how I always start my coffee table styling. I always start with my books. Keep in mind the scale of your items. So I will be talking more on scale in another point, but thinking of your book sizes, if you have a really large coffee table, I would probably recommend doing a larger book. So you have like American or Cowboys, the Architectural Digest books, so books that are larger in scale when it comes to a coffee table book, I would place on a larger coffee table. If you have a smaller table, then obviously these smaller, more standard size books is what you're going to play with. Now, once you have your grid, once you have your books set, keep in mind there are 4 different ways you guys can style a coffee table book on your table. You can have them in a horizontal orientation, a vertical orientation. You can have them in a book stand like what I have behind me. And then as a 4th way to style your coffee table books, just having them simply open. This is great because it does take up real estate. So if you're not quite sure what else to put on your coffee table, simply having one of your books open, maybe you have like a bookmark or some sort of decor element, whether that's beads, whatever you are into. This allows for more real estate to be taken up, and it also invites your guests to maybe sift through that book. It's kind of like an invitation for them to kind of go through it, and it adds a lot of visual interest to your space. So I will show you guys 4 different ways on styling your coffee table books on your table, but I always recommend you guys to change that up. Once you have your layout of where you want your books, I would recommend having one in a vertical orientation, one in a horizontal orientation, depending obviously on the scale of your table, how many books you add. Usually I will stick to about 2 per stack or 1. So definitely getting creative with that, paying attention to the scale of your books and how you have them placed. The different orientations really do make for a visually interesting look. And so yeah, coffee table books are super important and the building block of your style when it comes to coffee table style. All right, the next point on this list is mixing different decor elements. But before we get into mixing decor elements and tips and tricks on that, I want to take a second to thank today's sponsor, who is Wayfair. Wayfair is one of my go-tos when shopping all things home accessories, and home decor. They have a variety of styles from modern, contemporary, rustic. They have high and low price points to meet anyone's budget and feature a handful of vintage items. I really enjoy mixing different elements within my home to achieve a beautiful yet curated look, and Wayfair has helped me achieve just that. Wayfair also has thousands of items to choose from, including indoor and outdoor furniture, holiday decor, and they even have everything you need to throw your next party. Wayfair is having their Labor Day clearance event, up to 70% off with fast and free shipping. So if there's anything that's been sitting in your cart, now is the time to snag it. Thank you again to Wayfair for sponsoring today's video, but without further ado, you guys, let's get back into tips and tricks on styling your coffee table. Now, the last point that we stopped at was interesting decor. This is where the styling really gets fun. This is where you can really get creative and shine on bringing things that mean something to you. Maybe it's an heirloom piece, maybe it's something that you found at a vintage or antique shop. Maybe it's just something that has a lot of visual interest to it. Maybe it's a decorative bowl, whatever that is to you. This is where you can get really creative on bringing really cool aspects to your style. So I definitely feel like we need to be intentional with the items that we bring. You definitely want to pay attention again to the scale of your items. You don't want things to be too big. You don't want things to be too small. You want them to make sense when it comes to rearranging and putting your overall style together. Now, not only do we want things to be beautiful, interesting looking, but we also can bring functionality to our styles and the decor elements that we place on top of it. One thing that I really always recommend when it comes to coffee table styling is storage boxes. These are great because typically they are a woven material. Typically, they do come in other materials clearly, but I love bringing my woven boxes from McGee & Co. They add warmth, they add texture, which is a material that we will be talking more on as another tip and trick. But these are a way to house remotes. Like, this is such a great place for you to hide some of those things that maybe we don't want showcased. Remote controls, maybe you have some coasters, wires, whatever it might be. Having some functional decor as well on your coffee table is definitely, I feel like, something we should pay attention to when it comes to styling those spaces. Like I said, there are multiple different boxes you can choose from. You can practically find them everywhere and anywhere, and they're really affordable. So when you're playing with different decor elements, clearly we want functionality, we want visual interest, things that tell a story, items that reflect what you are into, and making it feel really interesting and a curated collection of items on your coffee table. So definitely paying attention to the items that you're putting on your coffee table. Are they functional? Do they have visual interest? And do they personally mean something to you, or they tell people about you? Is also going to be another beautiful tip and trick on today's. All right, the next tip and trick is scale. While we were talking about decor elements, what brings another point up within this video is scale. Now, all these tips and tricks that we're talking about in today's video are things that we can pay attention to in everyday styling. These are tips and tricks that you guys should be paying attention to when it comes to styling a console table or a sideboard, but scale is so important. I feel a lot of people don't understand the importance of this topic. Scale is essentially how big or small an item is. Now, if you are placing a gigantic vase on a small coffee table, your scale and proportions are going to be completely off. So you really need to pay attention to the size of your coffee table. If you have a larger coffee table like I do, my coffee table can withhold larger items. I feel sometimes when I put smaller elements on a really large coffee table, the coffee table alone just basically eats the decor items. Like literally it feels like the coffee table is just swallowing those smaller elements whole. So definitely pay attention to that. If you have a smaller coffee table, maybe not a huge large bowl or a huge gigantic vase is going to be something that's going to look good on it, because the scale and the proportion is going to be way off. So making sure we're not doing too big or too small based on the size of your coffee table. Now, another thing you need to pay attention to, because a lot of people bring vases and stems to their coffee table because it adds color, it adds texture, it adds height, but making sure it is not obstructing the view. So you don't have a gigantic vase on your coffee table that's going to obstruct the view of anybody that maybe is visiting your house, or you guys in general watching television. Paying attention to the size of your vase when it comes to bringing a stem to your coffee table. We don't want it to be super tall. Like I would not put something like this on a coffee table. Definitely bringing something that is a little bit more low profile, something that again, that is not going to obstruct anybody's view when it comes to maybe a fireplace or a TV. So definitely paying attention to your scale, how big your items are, not too big, not too small, and you also don't want them too tall. I feel like I'm just restricting you guys in general when it comes to decorating, but just again, scale is super important. Pay attention to it. Like I even mentioned with the coffee table books, how big your books are. If you have a big coffee table, the bigger the book, the better. Smaller coffee table, smaller items. So that is the next item on this list. All right, and the last key point on this coffee table tips and tricks, how to style like a pro. I'm gonna bring these together into one. That is mixing your material, and that is mixing your shapes. So we're gonna start with shapes first. Mixing your shapes is so important. It is a no-brainer when it comes to styling really any surface. The more material and the more shapes that you can bring in, the more visually interesting your coffee table style is going to come off. Now you really want to steer clear of bringing a round tray with a round vase with a round bowl. This is just going to feel very redundant and not so much curated. So if you have a round vase that you really want to style with, I would maybe bring in a square tray, or maybe a irregular type of bowl, something that has a little bit different shape. This also plays hand in hand with one of our first points, which is our coffee table books, and how those are kind of the building block of your style. Having different orientations is also going to help with that visual interest and mixing up the different shapes and redundancy of a coffee table style. Now, materials is also going to play a huge role. These are all super important key points, but mixing your materials is going to be something that's going to bring, again, that visual interest. Now, if you have a wood coffee table, I would recommend bringing some decor elements that are completely different. Maybe you have a marble bowl or a paper mache bowl. Maybe you have a woven tray. Bringing in those different materials is going to make your style feel a lot more interesting. It's going to be something that's going to make people really want to stop and take it all in. Now, if you have the same material, the same shapes all the way across the board, it's definitely going to feel a lot more flat. Definitely feels a lot lackluster. And so definitely making sure you are paying attention to the shapes that you are adding to your spaces, as well as the materials that you are adding, is definitely going to make your coffee table styling top notch. So that is the last and final point of this coffee table tips and tricks video. All right, you guys, and that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this rather simple and short, quick and easy video on styling a coffee table as we're coming into the holiday season. Hopefully you guys can refer back to this video when it comes to styling your tables for the holiday season, and really any time in general. Hopefully it was helpful for you guys. And if you want something a little bit more in depth, make sure to let me know down below in the comments. But until the next video, I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you guys soon. Peace.